Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trekyards for yet another Discovery review. I am Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins. Episode 10, as we are going to travel into spoilers in this week's episode.
Yes, the Great Barrier.
So if you feel like continuing, then know that it might be a bumpy ride.
The Great Barrier. It's a better episode than the last two, I gotta say.
Yes, did things finally happen, Stuart? The last couple have been less. But that's good to hear you think that. What did you think of episode 10 then of season 4?
I was a little disappointed with the ending. I wanted to get a little more than that. I kind of figured when we're getting near the end that we're just going to get we're not going to find out anything really about 10C, but that's okay. We got a backstory for Tarka, which was really great, and just the whole Great Barrier thing as well. Yeah, it was good. It was better than the last two episodes, like I said. It wasn't phenomenal by any means, but there was definitely some good things that happened. I really feel like this is goodbye for Bryce. I know he's on another show, a Canadian show called The Porter. Just that whole send-off by Sawyer just sounded like a goodbye to the actor, unfortunately.
Well, if he's given more than 2 lines every 4 episodes, then it's probably a good deal for him as an actor.
Everything that Saru said to him was basically like, congratulations on your new job. Wish you all the best, kind of
Getting
thing.
more lines than me, even. And I play Saru on the show.
It was almost like an actor saying goodbye to another actor for another job. So, but anyway, yes, I thought it was great. So, what did you think of it?
I think I like it. Yeah, there's plenty of good stuff and some slower stuff, but it's not bad. And it's better than the last 2 episodes for sure. But it doesn't quite give us enough of the good stuff. Because again, it's like a slow traipsing journey. But I think I like it overall. Yeah.
I can understand the slow traipsing journey. And you're definitely holding off each episode for a reveal.
Both stories are innately interesting, but intercutting between universe-ending, galactic barrier, history-making, epic sci-fi to 2 dudes talking quietly in ruins. The pacing goes from being quite tense to flat. Even the flashbacks are quite flat. And it just rips the pacing every time. As soon as I get engaged in the barrier, which you want stuff to happen, it then pulls you back in. And while that stuff's sort of interesting, it's just so slow and simple. It feels like there's going to be a reveal for his subplot. But it's just everything he said previously. We've just seen it. Like, there wasn't anything new there beyond we saw it. I didn't feel like I gained anything except seeing it. But I could have seen it in 5 to 10 less minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But if that was throughout the season, that'd be better. Or if it'd got some depth, or if it had been a twist, or it's just it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that really stood out to me was Stamets' one line. I don't know if this is an Anthony Rapp thing or if this was actually in the script and the writers have been paying attention to Trekyards at all. But he's like, I'm cautiously optimistic-ish. I mean, we say that all the time. So it almost felt like a thing for us. You know, we were right again, as we tend to be sometimes. And the thing we were right about, the thing we speculated about, is that DMA is now threatening Earth and Navarre. Wow. I mean, they're not super close together, but apparently, it's hitting the Alpha Quadrant now. It's like, wow, it's pretty big then. They did say a size at one point, but anyway, Navarre and Earth are both under threat, and we called that as well. That was going to happen before the end of the season. So,
but it doesn't quite feel like logical, in the sense of like it goes from being mega threat at the start to 0 threat in the medium to giant threat again. But there's 0 context given, because obviously it'd be the characters imposing on a rationale. Is it a deliberate attack? In which case that's heavy, or is it just mining happens to be there? There should have been a line. I know the message was cut short, but they should have had a line with the computer lady saying there are not a high density of particles between Navarre and Earth. This is a deliberate attack, because the chances of that being the placement are basically 0. That's a deliberate attack. You can't convince me the coincidence of being the entire galaxy and the 14 light years is literally between Navarre and Vulcan. Of all the spaces, so that is a deliberate attack on our planets. There's no other way you can look at that with the logic of the show and the reality.
There'd be no reason for them to attack Earth, though. It's not the head of the Federation anymore, assuming that they know it's the Federation.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't know if the audience understands that. They need a motivation.
Yes, I know.
It's not even as if Book or whatever his name is, Urka, whatever his name is, are from Earth.
Tarka.
So even if they detected like their DNA on the DMA, they're not Earth at all. Because I just did some checking up, and Vulcan is 16.5 light years away. So the DMA is 14 light years. So if it's right in the middle, it's 2 light years away from both. Which also means that the gravity must be 2 light years of devastation. But there are other planets in between. So I guess every single planet and star, well, not star, every single planet and asteroid and colony has been destroyed between those two places. Because that's like the most. That's the OG space lane between us and Vulcan, our first ally. There's going to be lots of things along that route.
They did make a point of saying that the DMA is the same size, the controller, but it's a lot more powerful now. So I don't know if that expands the actual gravitational field, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway,
well, if it does, both planets have been destroyed already, which they haven't been. So it can't be any larger than 16 light years. And if it's already on the edge of our if it's under our solar system, we're dead anyway. So they want to throw that twist in without giving us real explanation. And only 72 hours. It finally creates a ticking clock of some meaning. But the coincidence factor is obscene. Kind of implying that potentially these creatures do know this Federation and know that of all the places to attack, these will make them think twice. Well, we know the Federation's history with Earth and Vulcan will... Because they could have placed either side of either planet and caused different damage, but being in the middle is almost literally impossible given the relative space of things in space. It's an attack. But we attacked first, so, can you blame them?
Well, yeah. And to use an isolytic weapon as well, which was banned by the Federation for its damage to subspace. And
although to them, that's like firing a firecracker, so...
Maybe, yeah.
Speaking of a less imposing bang, what do you think of the travel through the galactic barrier, the strongest single energy stopping mechanism in our entire galaxy, which we've never gotten through on purpose?
It gave me lots of immunity syndrome vibes. Like there's cells transversing the barrier. It's like it's alive, and the whole time I'm thinking, it would have been great, guys, if in these 900 years, you are explorers. You might want to find a way to get through the galactic barrier just in case we ever needed to. It just seems like, we get to the galactic barrier and just go, oh wow, this is rough. We're not even going to bother trying. It just seemed a little bit, eh. And then that brings in the programmable antimatter now to bolster the shields. And they did make the point, too, of the mycelium network doesn't extend out there. Well, it does, but it's weird and disjointed and could cause damage to the operator and all that. So, I don't know. It's just...
Because that was the big thing. We even said earlier on it might be from the galaxy, so we speculated the Great Barrier pretty early on, conceptually. Yeah, I love that they actually said we can't spore drive out the galaxy, because we'd said, well, why can't you? So finally a limit to the thing. It can time travel, the right circumstances, it can go anywhere in the galaxy in 1 second. At least we have one limitation. It can't go outside our galaxy.
But the closest they can get is 9 light years away instead of 4. It's the closest I can get you. It's like, okay, well, everything else is pretty accurate. There should have been another line there, too, of just some interference from the galactic barrier, the radiation or something was... There should have been something said there, but...
I liked that because...
I liked it too, but there should have been more.
I liked it because when the Federation is so small and lithium isn't everywhere, the hell would you go out to the edge of our galaxy? Because that would be months away, then months back. So no one's been to the Great Barrier, I assume, for at least 100 years minimum, if not longer. And only Discovery can travel there in effective time and back, and they haven't been there since they've never been there. So you assume any scans are old scans or third party or massive long range, which aren't going to be effective. So their knowledge of that is antiquated, and so their calculations are just wrong. Because, of course, the data is just, no one goes there. That's why they're like, ooh, because they've never been there. You'd think they would have already jumped there to do recon because it's easy. They hadn't, as in for Discovery. So I liked that. And the barrier itself, we'll talk about it in a separate video as well to compare it with the original. I thought it was a little bit of a cheap excuse, the cells. Obviously, though, their shields were basically as close to useless inside the barrier as possible. And if these are the most advanced shields ever developed by humans, then of course anybody before this would just be dead earlier. So it does create no one could have ever done it. But the fact they instantly have a solution, replicable antimatter, and it works. Although that said, I didn't think the context that Tarka and the crew used were the same, because Tarka implies it's an anti-magnet, like it's a magnetic reverse push thing, implying that the barrier wouldn't touch them, so they just cruise right through it. Whereas Discovery, they don't actually say that but the shield's being hit. How are the shield's being hit if he's being repulsed? So I assume they're not using the same tech, even though they did say antimatter on the hull once, but...
Because Tarka said Discovery's going to have to employ the same technique, and then he goes on to explain it. So, like, it's the only option.
Yeah, I assume there'd be a twist where they had to later, but then why the hell do you think Bookship could get through? It's much smaller, less powerful shields.
Smaller might be better in this instance.
Don't buy that for a second. It's just death rays. Death rays don't get less effective on a smaller ship. It's, you need shield power. Although Tarka's smarter to do the antimatter. It was cool, but also too easy, but also too hard. At least they avoided using the flamethrowers. They just relied on Just Ring and Spark, so good credit for not using those. Maybe they can't listen to feedback. They filmed it a while ago, but I liked that at least. But I don't know. It was fine, but it makes sense that at least, the most advanced ship ever in Star Trek ever is powerful enough to go through finally. It's just once it got to that point, it was relatively effective, and if you planned a second trip, you could then plan around those molecules without being rushed and go through relatively easily,
Yeah. Well, I thought there was a traffic jam and stuff. The only other thing to talk about is Oris. Oris is Tarka's friend.
I was wondering if they were going to go lover at any point. They kept sort of tone-wise...
That was implied with the first conversation he had about him, my partner, but I mean, scientists work as partners, so I was wondering if they were going to do that too. But we get the name of the home, which translates to home in this guy's language. Khalees? I can't really remember offhand.
I mean, it was heavy fleshing out, but for a very simple story that didn't need that much time spent. I do think, though, tonally, they've done a weird... They're trying to have cake and eat it and make more cake at the same time, because last episode, he's played as the villain. This episode, he's been placed back as the hero. Tone-wise, the audience are left thinking, oh, poor him, even though the last episode he was the baddie, because they don't want to have him be the baddie for the last result things happen at the end, but they need him to be baddie in one episode, so it's not what we do with characters like that, because he's actively, Book's pissed at him at the start, and then his best friend at the end of the second one, and it's like, oh, it was like Alison Brie in Picard, murdering Maddox, and you're meant to like her the next episode. It's like,
or Girardi,
yeah, it's like, it's not quite tonally right. At least the reveal is that there's no reveal, that some alien that he knew, people said there might be a spiritual plane somewhere else. There's no science fact to back it up, except we know a dimension exists that matches this dimensional energy. They've been there. There's no information, so he's purely going on faith of, I'll see my friend in this maybe reality. So that's going to blow up in his face, and I'm going to love that. But there's no science there. Face.
And the fact that his friend's neither confirmed dead nor alive, just with nothing, so he assumes he might have transported there already. So,
although if he did transport there, then he doesn't need the power of of this special species, because the guy, how would he suddenly make 10 times more power in a closed facility being watched more?
He wasn't making 10 times more power. They almost did it the first time, but because they're transporting 2 people. It could have been for one person, it works fine, which Tarka should have figured out by now, but...
But if that's the case, I don't buy for a single second that planet had unique geothermal energy and 1 warp core was enough. Look, clearly Tarka's saying it's obscene amount of power needed. He would have found other ways with Starfleet Command at his disposal, so something must radically change for him to beam if he got more power. He can't have been that close, otherwise Lorca said, whatever his name, Tarka should have said, only 10% more needed. I could have easily achieved that in XYZ planet. Easily. He's had many, many years at this point. Which I quite liked his...
But the thing is, too, it goes back to what they said in last season with Yor, the time traveler from the Kelvinverse, that when he came back, the universes were a lot closer together. Now they're moving apart, so it's almost impossible to get there, cross over to the Kelvinverse. So it could be the same thing with this. The more years go by, the more power is required to get there. I mean, Tarka might have that figured out. I don't know. That's never implicitly said, but it's what would make the most amount of sense. So
interesting, although it would be a lot of shift.
It would have to be for a few years, yeah.
But I did quite like his de-aging of just making his beard fully black. I thought that was actually quite effective. It's like, oh, you're younger now by 10 years because you're darker beard.
The only other one thing that was an interesting clue, which people probably really forget about, is early on Kovich says, I have other urgent matters to attend to, so I can't be here. And the girl from Earth is like, what's more urgent than this? Well, hopefully nothing if I can actually stop it. It's like, okay, well, that's intriguing. I want to hear that story now. Because this is a pretty big deal. So that was a nice little touchstone, and just those little pieces of tech at the beginning as well.
Which, check out our full review of the Saturday, because a lot of stuff to talk about there, obviously. Yeah, I do think that was a red herring of just keeping him mysterious. I don't think there's an actual storyline in mind. But I know what you mean.
It's the next season.
Or it's the next season.
A lot happened, but yet a lot didn't happen again.
Well, it's one more stepping stone in the story where we know where it's going.
And yeah, now we're on to this planet that's near the bubble, but it's probably uninhabited. But there might be clues there. It's like, so the next episode is going to be all on this planet. They're going to find some ancient relics and blah, blah.
Although 3 light years is basically on its front porch. So they're being... do you not think these guys are already detecting you? Do you not think they're already monitoring the gate barrier? I mean, they can't think for a second they're being stealthy here. I don't know why there isn't instantly a transwarping in envoy. You know, pacing-wise, that's honestly what should have happened at the end. A big, diamond ship should have transwarped out, and they're like, that was quantum slipstream. Like, we haven't, that tech we haven't used for decades because it's so unstable, and they just use it,
I also wish that they didn't ruin warp with the hyperspace tunnel, because at the end it would have been cool if they're warping towards the area, instead of Reese saying it's weird having not so many stars. Would have been cool if they were at warp and going, this is weird, how at warp and seeing nothing streaking by.
Oh yeah, that's really funny actually. Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, that would have been a nice little touch, but they've already ruined warp with the hyperspace tunnel thing, which ends the episode essentially. So
yeah, visual reboot. Don't pay any attention to it. Basically, fundamentally.
I guess that's it, guys. Nothing else I can think about to talk about right now.
Yeah, but better than the last couple, so that's good. So yeah.
But join us for our live tonight, where we talk about it in detail, break it down scene by scene, and really have a good discussion. So hopefully you guys can join. If you can't, or if you even can, comment down below, start a conversation with other viewers, and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't miss any of our lives or other contents, because we have a lot of breakdown videos and stuff as well. So,
And if you support what we do here, because we do need that direct support, it's pretty darn essential. Then Patreon, PayPal to run the channel, and the links down below to buy shirts, etc. All those lives with super chatting any amount to help us out. But your comments and thoughts through does make a massive, massive difference. Thank you in advance.
That's right. So until next time, he's Commander Cocky.
He's got a 30.
I'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.